It is Wednesday, June 1st, 2022. This is another edition of Baseball Today presented to you by our friends over at Shady Rays. Not only will you look these great if you order a pair of Shady Rays, when you inevitably break them or lose them like this idiot does several times a year, they will replace them. Today, we have replaced the one and only Trevor Plouffe because he is still on his European vacation with New York's #1 sports fan, Joez McFly, joining us from John Boy Media headquarters. Where is your Rangers sweater?
It's actually right out there, right outside. I have my Rangers sweater and I have my Yankee jersey as well. So I have both of them ready for it.
Yeah, but you just told me right before we got on this thing, you're like, it's freezing in here. This is the perfect day to wear your Rangers sweater in there. Come on, dude.
It is freezing. It is freezing inside of this studio right now. I didn't anticipate it being this cold because out there is not like that. It's like different climates in different rooms in this office.
So are you locked into the Rangers right now?
Super locked in. I mean, I'm locked in Yankees for sure, but in baseball, but I'm definitely, they got me into hockey, man. I'm like crazy into hockey.
Yeah. Hey, listen, they're one step shy of playing for the Stanley Cup. My nephew Max is a huge New York Rangers fan, grew up in the city, so I'm super excited for him and for all you guys that are they're on board the Big Blue up there. So I wish them luck. Of course, you can't mention the New York sports scene without also mentioning Boston. There was kind of something cool that happened last night during the Red Sox game. For the first time ever, there was a prom that happened during a Red Sox game at Fenway Park. This is Marblehead High School. Now, Joez, what would have happened had you taken your date to the prom at a baseball venue? Let's say you had it at Yankee Stadium. Would your date have been into it or not?
I think they would have kind of had to be into it if I'm taking them because they know me. It's like I'm,
but it's not always just about you, Joez, when it comes to prom.
But I'm just saying, we'll have a great time. You have probably were they in a suite?
No, they're in this new area that they've kind of built up over the last few years. As you can see, it's kind of overlooking the park. It's up top.
Yes.
This is something that wasn't around 10 or 15 years ago, but now they have this. It's a cool opportunity for these kids if they're all Red Sox fans, and we know how passionate they are, whether you like them or not.
But you can have music inside and food, drinks, and then you just walk out, and there's the ambiance of like a ball game and all of that. Yeah, why not? I mean,
did you go to your prom, your senior prom?
I did go to my prom. Well, actually, my high school prom I did not go to because I had sold my tux money for sneakers.
What? You sold your tux money for sneakers?
Oh my god, that was so dumb now that I was remembering it. Yes, I did. Like I had like some sneakers that my friends were making fun of my sneakers, how they were looking, and they were like, "Yo, Joe, like, what's going on here, man? Why are you looking like that?" And I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna get some new sneakers, and I got some new sneakers. And my mom was like, "You're not going to the prom, then. That's your money for the prom. Figure it out." And I said, "Oh, wow."
So wait, Joez, did you have like a girlfriend at the time?
No.
Oh,
no.
Okay, good. So it wasn't like it cost you a relationship. It was just like that would have been great if you had chosen sneakers over your girl. How awesome. Joez. Okay, let's move on. Although that is an excellent story. Radio interview this morning in our nation's capital. Mike Rizzo, the GM of the Washington Nationals, was asked about the future of Juan Soto. We've heard a lot of rumors about where he might be playing his baseball in the upcoming months. Remember, he's not a free agent until after the 2024 season.
Right.
Here is the Nats architect.
We are not trading Juan Soto. We made it clear to his agent and to the player. These are all, I understand these journalists have to, they've got to fill a blank sheet of paper every day. It's a good thing to get some attention on a story. But we have every intention of building this team around Juan Soto, and we've spoken to his agent many times. Recently, sat with him when he was in Washington D.C. Made it clear to him that we are not interested in trading him, and I guess the rest of the world just doesn't believe it.
Do you believe him, Joez?
I do. Well, they kind of went through the same thing with Bryce Harper, where they were trying to see if they could keep him and whatnot, and they've already extended that olive branch to him to show him, hey, we're trying to build around you. And they already extended a contract, 13 years, 350, I believe. And he declined it. Juan Soto's super young. He's 23 years old. If there's a guy to build around, it's this guy. Plus there's 2.5. Well, what is it? It would be 2.5 years of control. Right, Dan. If you're going to trade him, you don't have to do it now. You could probably revisit that later on if you have certain prospects that are not developing, or somebody like blows you away with the offer next year. But I thought Boris already came out and said, yeah, we're not trading the player. It sounded funny when he said it, though, because it's like, isn't this what the GM is supposed to say, not you?
Although there's a lot of people who believe that Scott Boras is the GM in Washington, because he's had so much, high-priced talent that's gone through there. This is exactly what Mike Rizzo has to say. Right. Okay. I don't necessarily believe him. I think I believe him for the 2022 season. And I agree with you, Joes. I think this is something they're going to have to seriously sit down and think about, because an open market Juan Soto at age 25,
yes,
or, getting ready to start his age 26 season, whatever he's going to be, he's going to be what, $450, $500 million by that point, probably. I mean, who knows? But so the Nationals have to sit here and say, do we really want to pay him that? Is that if they were smart, because we think the Lerners are selling the team, they would sign him right now to a deal worth $450 million, call it a day, because that's not going to prevent somebody from buying the Washington Nationals. They're not going to be like, so how much are you paying Juan Soto? They want to buy the Washington Nationals. Now, the question is, does it make sense? Does it make sense to pay him that amount of money? Or does it make sense to trade him and try and get the world? Because could you imagine, even in this offseason coming up, what you could get for Juan Soto?
I mean, listen, I'm a Yankee fan, so I always look through things through Yankee lens, right? So I would love, I mean, who wouldn't want Juan Soto on their team?
There's not one team that wouldn't want him. So,
right. So to me, I look at Juan Soto and I think that his ceiling is so high because of how young he is, and things like plate discipline in a young player. That's something I think we talked about that earlier in the year when I was on Baseball Today with Plouffe, where we were talking about Quan, right? And I think you were away and we were talking about how, when Quan was hot and all of that, we were like, on base percentage is just something that you really like in young players, because that only gets better over time. So I love Juan Soto and his ability and his bat, and the shift is going away next year. Not that I'm saying that it affects him too much, but we don't know. But I think he's gonna really be, he's like a generational talent.
Totally. And here's the thing. He's mired on the worst team in baseball.
Right.
They're just, how many guys in that lineup outside of Keibert Ruiz are you like, yep, that's a must-have on my squad for the next 5 to 10 years? There's not a lot of guys. So he's going to put up whatever, and it's been a shaky start for him. It hasn't been good. He still leads the league in walks, just like he did last year. He might not get to 145 walks like he did a season ago, but I think he's going to have a good shot at leading the league again. Because why in the world would you pitch this guy? He maybe sees 2 or 3 pitches a game that he could drive. So we'll see. Yeah. I don't think he's going to get traded now, but I think we'll have to revisit this quote again in the offseason. Right. Let's move on, where there was another interesting quote and twist and turn in the Tommy Pham bitch slap session that he had with Jock Peterson. Yesterday, he said he basically backed up the bus on the league's commissioner, none other than Mike Trout. He is quoted as saying, Mike Trout did a terrible job, man. Trout is the worst commissioner in fantasy sports because he allowed a lot of stuff to go on, and he could have solved it all. I don't want to be the commissioner. I've got other shit to do. Trout didn't want to do it. We put it on him, so it's kind of our fault too, because we made him the commissioner. Yeah. Are you happy that you found out that Mike Trout was the commissioner, or are you pissed off that Pham kind of threw this out there?
I felt like when he was saying it, he said it like laughing too. When I was reading it, and he said it like he was laughing. But Mike Trout, best player in the world, not the best commissioner. That's what it is. He's actually scheduled to have a press conference today, a scheduled press conference, and they'll ask him about this. This is so crazy with this fantasy league. At this point, ESPN should pick it up and like either televise it or look for a way to cover it or something like that, because it's taking up so many headlines. And if it's this serious, I kind of want to see how intense it really is.
You know what we need to do? We need to get a league fantasy football draft, because they all happen, right before the NFL season starts.
Mm-hmm.
And these guys all get their big boards together and their jerseys. There's nothing new here. We need to be invited to broadcast this thing.
Oh, that would be awesome.
We're going to be invited in somehow. We're going to find a team to hook our. But did you read some of the money that was a part of this?
It's $10,000, right?
So it was a $10,000 entry fee. We don't know how many players were in it. So, $10,000 for guys that are making 35 million a year. Not that big a deal.
Right.
To us, it's still but then whomever finished last in the 12-team field, and that doesn't mean, I don't know how many players there were per team. It could have just been 12. You have your own team. Could have been multiple guys. It could have been 10,000 per team. It could have been 10,000 per player. I don't know what it was. But whomever finished last in the league had to pay an additional 10,000 into the kitty.
That's a lot. That's a good amount of change. I mean, that's enough to get slapped over. If some.
Well, here's where I don't want it to go very quickly.
Don't do that.
I don't want the league to overreact to this.
Oh, yeah.
I don't want the league to overreact to it, because one of the things I love talking to guys about on the Rose rotation is their fantasy football league. Like Adam Wainwright is in several of them. And I love hearing stories about guys who really think they could be NFL GMs. Like, I love that shit. And I feel badly for Mike Trout that, like, can we be honest here?
Yeah.
Fantasy football commissioner is like one of the 3 worst jobs in this country.
It is.
Right? Have you ever been one?
I was a fantasy football commissioner. I mean, fantasy baseball commissioner, actually. Everybody comes to you with like problems and stuff.
Oh, it's horrible.
It's annoying.
One of my nephews, Andrew, he's 33, and he was the commissioner, and he would bitch up a storm because we're like the most archaic league. We finally got PPR in our league last year. Like, for years, myself and my 2 sons are like, what are we doing here? And Andrew goes, fine, you fucking be the commissioner. And my 16-year-old is like, yeah, let me. I'm like, no, you have to focus on schoolwork. Let's let it for one of these other morons that just kind of half-asses it through their workday.
Right.
But I am embarrassed for Trout. I hope that he doesn't. I hope he doesn't take it too seriously in the press conference. Like, let's not come out of this saying, oh, Mike Trout, my image of him has changed after finding out he's in a league where he plays for 10,000. No, Mike Trout signed a $426 million deal. He's a grown ass man. He should be able to do whatever the hell he wants to do.
I want to see him in like a full commissioner suit, like right in that press conference talking about, we talked to these guys. I want him to take it nice and serious. Like, that would be dope. Love to see that. I'm looking forward to that today. So,
all right, let's get to the injured list, and kind of bad news for teams that are bouncing around a little bit.
Yes.
Tampa Bay Rays put their best offensive player, Wander Franco. He's got a strained quad. He ends up on the injured list. We knew that Tim Anderson was going to end up on the injured list. It's a strained groin. Sounds like it could be around 3 weeks, hopefully, for him. Both are spark plugs for their respective teams. Who's going to be missed more?
To me, it's a very simple question. It's Tim Anderson. I mean, Tim Anderson, if he is that spark plug for that team. We seen what happened in New York, everything that went on, and he kind of ignited that whole offense, and he was hot anyway. I'm looking at his numbers, and for the White Sox, who are right now, they're kind of trying to like find their footing, trying to find some consistency. To lose a guy that's batting .356 on the season with an .896 OPS is going to be tough. And I know that he had the errors at short, but I seen him make some plays against the Yankees that I'm like, that guy right there, I don't know if it has to do with the infield in Chicago. I'm not sure, but that guy's super athletic. He's going to be super missed. And I'm not saying Wander Franco isn't. He's been struggling for most of the year, with the Rays. And it seemed like in the last 7 games, he's starting to get, his bat starting to get in order. But Tim Anderson's been having it all year. In actually last 7 games before he got hurt, he was batting .407. So,
well, listen, Tim Anderson he's one of my favorite players to watch because he forces the action.
Yeah,
like he always. How often does Tim Anderson even see like 3 pitches in an at bat. It's almost never. He's always putting the ball in play.
Yep.
Something good is happening. He is the heartbeat of that team. He's the emotional spark plug and everything. And with all that being said, I would think it's Wander Franco, but I have to say this in its totality here, that Wander Franco has been bothered by leg issues so far this year. Remember, he got off to that blistering start like the first 2 or 3 weeks. Everything was being put in play. Everything was being hit hard with him. When you see that Wander Franco, he's a difference maker on a team that doesn't have a ton of them. And now that their middle infield between he and Lau's still out and has been since the middle of May, that's a big part of their thump missing. I know that the White Sox don't have Eloy. I know that Luis Robert has been in and out. I know that Moncada has barely gotten started. I somehow think that in that division, the White Sox could still be okay even after another 3 weeks without Tim Anderson. I think in the American League East, if they don't have a healthy Wander Franco when he comes back off of the injured list, I'm worried about them even making the playoffs.
That's a great point, because even you look at that extra wild card, man, just really opens it up so that other teams feel like they're still in it.
Yep.
The Red Sox, for all their struggles, and they lost yesterday 2-1. We're having the Prom. So that's funny. But the Red Sox still feel like they're in it. Like they feel like, you know what? We can figure this out. We have the offense to do this. And I think any team really can feel that in the, in the American League and the National League with that extra wild card. So,
and listen, I mean, there's teams that have been playing like dog shit this year, right? Like the Seattle Mariners, who had a 90-win season a year ago, and they were like, yeah, we're at 21-28. You damn well better believe they feel like if they can get a Mitch Haniger back, if they can get some of their younger players to continue to grow, and if they can get Robbie Ray to pitch like the Cy Young winner that he was a year ago, that they'll be back in this thing. And so it's just way too early. It's just that the Rays have to be cognizant of the fact that there are a lot of teams that if they go down a 15-game stretch and they go 3-12, like that could be really alarming. And it worries me that without a couple of guys that could end up happening. We'll see. It is the first day of June. Which player or team is most happy to see the calendar flipped and will now excel over the next 30 days?
Well, I chose both. I chose the player and the team, but I guess with the team, I'm going to go with the Braves. I feel like the World Series hangover thing, they could look at June and, say, all right, let's get ready. Let's get ready to go. Mets have a little bit of a tough schedule. Mets have a huge lead in the division. They don't even need to look at that right now. They just need to kind of just play great ball and just, try to get in that wild card race, do what they're supposed to do there. The Phillies stink. We talked about the Nationals and things like that. And I think that I can so see the Braves right now. I looked at their schedule too. It's not difficult at all. I can see them making a push in this month. Happy to turn around this month and putting the World Series behind them. As far as a player, I'm looking at Bellinger, and the Dodgers really haven't been, they kind of like on cruise control for me. And Bellinger has started to turn it up as of late. I believe in the last 7 games, looking a lot better. I would, weather getting even better. I mean, weather's always nice in California, but I could so see him hitting his stride now in June and being able to play up to his potential a lot more. So would love for Mr. Bellinger to get going.
By the way, real quickly with Bellinger, do you think we keep waiting for him to get going, and he got off to a nice start this year, and we were like, oh yeah, it's because he wasn't rehabbing an injured shoulder like the year before and all that sort of stuff. Do you think he has the possibility, maybe not of being MVP Cody Bellinger, but being a guy that hits 265 with 30 bombs? Because I'm not so sure we'll ever see that guy again.
I believe he could get to the homers. I don't know about getting to that average up there. I think if he's around 250, I think he'll be fine.
They would love it for 250. I think that he will be. I think when you bring up Cody Bellinger in a discussion, the pluses far and away are the defense, where he is outstanding out there.
Yes.
His athleticism and his base running. And that's where he's going to help the most. I think the rest of it is gravy at this point. I would be shocked if the Dodgers extend him. I think he'll eventually hit the free agent market, and I will be fascinated to see what a team is going to pay him. because they'll be paying him based on that 2019 MVP season, not what he has accomplished since. And when they sign him, they'll be doing it with their fingers crossed, but that's something to see. Well, for me, we've talked ad nauseum about the Phillies on this show. If they are to get it going, it's going to be because of the length of that lineup, right? We saw, Nicholas Castellanos get added to a team and Kyle Schwarber get added to a team. And so we solely focus on those two and Bryce Harper. I need to focus on JT Realmuto and Rhys Hoskins, because if you add those two guys and have them produce at the levels that they have in their career, then all of a sudden it starts to take a little bit of pressure off the defense, which is kicking the ball all over the place. The bullpen, which has started to show cracks after they had been okay the first month. Right. And the rotation, which at times gets outstanding performances, and at other times they start burying that team before they even get to the fourth inning. So Rhys Hoskins, a guy who's got a career OPS of 848. It's barely over 700 after a couple knocks last night. His lowest in a season is 819. That guy's got to get back. Realmuto, I'll give a little bit of a pass to, because I just think that to ask catchers to carry the water offensively when they take the beating that they do and have to stay in the game mentally the way they do, I think that's a plus. But it's really on Rhys Hoskins to continue to lengthen this lineup. He just hasn't, quite frankly, he hasn't been good enough.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to see more from the Phillies. Kyle Schwarber has the numbers in the power department as well. It's OPS 721. I think that they expect a little bit more.
It's not good enough. They're all not good enough. And something's going to happen. I don't know if Girardi's going to lose his job. As Ken Rosenthal wrote in The Athletic, that's not going to cure the construction of this team. It won't. So it's incumbent on the guys that are there to pick it up, to man up, because they're all good dudes. They've all been leaders at other points of their career, to just say, hey, fuck it. Let's go. Let's start picking it up. And so we'll see if that happens. Last thing, we did talk a little bit at the beginning of the show, obviously, about Juan Soto's future. Something that will help the Nats fans. It won't help them significantly in the standings, but will be a return to health of Stephen Strasburg. He is actually rehabbing. He's had a couple of rehab starts. In his most recent, he was dominant with 5 no-hit innings. But then the radio call of the kid that does the games came out yesterday, and it was a thing of beauty.
Deuces. Stras! Ghosting them like an OK Cupid Halloween party. John Stamos, full house, get him out of there, baby! Stephen Strasburg, ask for his credit card info in a spam email message. Let's go fishing with a PH. Sneak a live cat through a TSA pre-checkpoint. Tuesday cat, let's get Fred Nasty. Similar. Brendan Collins, very good off speed. Is nothing like his though. Freeze it like pay raises at a poorly run cryogenics laboratory.
How long do you think that dude sat there and tried to write those things up and say, okay, boy, when Strasburg punches a ticket, I'm breaking it out?
That's what I was thinking. I'm like, he had to have, like, for sure pre-planned that.
Oh, yeah.
Because to do that off the cuff would have been crazy impressive. I love the fishing one that he talked about with the PH. I love that one.
It was funny.
I don't know if that would work on the major league level, but that would be hilarious to watch. I mean, a lot of people don't really watch for the broadcast. I would watch his broadcast.
Yeah, if there could be like an alternative broadcast,
yes,
to your local one, because you'll hear, the older people that are in their 60s going, "What? This doesn't sound right."
What's fishing?
When I go fishing, I don't spell it with a PH. Do you? But how about the trying to check a live cat through TSA where he's going? Hey, kudos to you, dude. And
you got to call Blitzball.
No, he is not taking he's not taking my Blitzball gig. He cannot have, although I might try and sneak a few of those in there now.
Try to get some ideas from him.
I have to do that. Joez, what do you have coming up on John Boy Media? Anything?
Well, today we're actually supposed to do some JM gaming stuff. So we're gonna play some Wii.
Good.
Wii Sports. So that should be fun. And we have videos coming out on that on JM Gaming YouTube. And we're actually going to the stadium today. So I'm gonna be doing that, tracking Rangers. So a lot of stuff. We got
Awesome.
we got a little unofficial Rangers podcast called Bandwagon Blue Shirts.
Yes, I've seen. Good.
Hilarious.
Hey, man, fans need a place to go and enjoy this
Yes.
run that they've been on, which is fantastic. For us, Rose Rotation, a new episode drops tomorrow. Speaking of New York City, Trevor May is back on. We cover a lot of stuff here. Obviously, he's been hurt. The last time we saw him on the mound, he was nearly in tears based on his performance and the injury he had suffered. And he kind of takes us through the whole mentality of a player. He was getting a lot of shit online about, hey, if you're hurt, you can't be out there. You can't be blowing games for us. Fuck you, all this sort of. We talked a lot about it. And we talked a lot about the emotions and why he did it. There's just a lot of stuff going on in his life. We know about him losing his 2-year-old cat, Donnie, unfortunately. We cover that, where he is emotionally. It's gut-wrenching. There's also some fun stuff. We do talk about the fantasy football issue because he's been a part of a lot of teams that have had fantasy football drafts. In fact, he broke the news that Trevor Plouffe was the commissioner when he was up in Minnesota. Yeah, and so there's a lot of interesting stuff. It's a really good episode that'll drop tomorrow. Joez is back with us again on the podcast and the YouTube side. We will see you Thursday. Shout out to our producer extraordinaire, the one and only Dan Rourke. Thank you very much for tuning in here to Baseball Today, presented to you by Shady Rays.